Tell us about ADEA.
ADEA is a network which brings together all the ministers of education and training in Africa and all the development partners which are supporting the development of education in Africa. We are recognized by the organization, by the AU, as the premier network on education in Africa. And so we carry out a lot of credibility and authority and an authorizing environment. We have traditionally been probably the only body that could bring ministers of education and sometimes ministers of education and finance to look at a topical issue so that they could evolve policies that are appropriate in order to implement specific actions and priorities with regard to that particular action. So the issue of ICT is one that has been exercising our minds for the last 3 or 4 years. And we decided, after a meeting on science and technology in March last year, which we co-organized with the African Development Bank, UNESCO, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, the government of Kenya. Yes, we decided that we would organize a similar conference, but now focusing specifically on information communication technology and how this can be integrated into education and training. And this is why we have worked over the years to bring this about. To us, it is very important, and because there's a lot of confusion regarding the do's and the don'ts. So for us, it was very important to bring all the key players together. We have the advantage that 2 of the most important players in this field, Intel Corporation, Microsoft, and Hewlett-Packard, have also partnered with us. And later on, while we were organizing the conference, a group from China also wanted to join the stable. So we constantly do this we arrange this kind of conferences at ADEA. So it is not surprising that we are organizing it. But it's a very important moment for us to organize this, because we are now working very closely with UNESCO, with the African Development Bank, and now with these other development partners.
Africa's education and training needs are very diverse and very specific to each particular country and setting. So how can we look at global policies and global programs when it comes to using technology to further education needs?
First of all, we have to be very careful that we don't segment an area that needs to be integrated. We know that Africa faces many challenges, but probably the most serious problem that Africa faces in terms of catching up with the rest of the world is really its underdeveloped human resources. I personally believe sincerely that if Africa invested sufficiently in good education and training, that it could be the factory of the world tomorrow, just as China is the factory of the world. So we believe that the area of ICT is also an opportunity for Africa to catch up with the rest of the world. We have seen what Africa has been able to do with ICT, even with the cell phone. Look at the way they transfer money. They pay bills in Kenya. It was the first country in Africa, in the world, to develop this technology. So we think there are huge opportunities, some of which we have not even foreseen, where Africa could also be leader. And we also want to avoid a situation where, frankly, Africa is going to suffer a huge digital behind. So it's a very propitious moment, especially because we have all these collaborators from institutions like BAD, institutions like UNESCO, but more importantly, because Intel and Microsoft and Hewlett-Packard, they really have big bucks which they can bring. And why do you think they are doing it? They are doing it because basically the computer market has been shrinking. But guess what? There is a huge market in Africa. So we want to take advantage of the fact that they see an opportunity for doing business in order to collaborate with them, in order to advance African education and training. You are right in saying that what about with all the problems of instability and so forth? You know, my answer to that would be we cannot wait until every African country is stable. Perhaps by taking some of these actions, we may actually be contributing to stability and peace. Because one of the reasons why young people are easily used to murder other colleagues or other people in their country is because they have nothing else to do. And we believe that if we can provide them an alternative through good education, through good training, creating jobs, this is one way of creating stability by removing them from all the demagogues who are at the moment waylaying them.
ADEA is working hand in hand with a variety of partners to make these technological platforms available to the education sector in Africa. But for these platforms to be effective, work also needs to be done at a policy level with governments. A global curriculum may even have to be written. Do you work on that as well?
Until recently, we remained at the policy level. But after our meeting in Ouagadougou, and also the second evaluation of ADEA carried out by Universalia of Canada, it became clear that we cannot only stop at the abstract level, that we need to go into implementation. So, as a matter of change in policy, we have decided, especially on the advice of President Blaise Compaoré of Burkina Faso, that we are going to go into implementation. Obviously, we cannot go into implementation in 54 countries. So we have developed some criteria as to which countries we are going to go into first. And this morning we had a very nice discussion with Intel, where they are willing really to partner with us, starting in one Anglophone and one Francophone country, and then expanding the network. So we are going to go into implementation. But we are setting some very stringent criteria. One of the criteria is leadership and commitment. Because we believe that without leadership, without commitment, it's not possible to make progress. But we believe that if we choose the countries properly, on the basis of very clear criteria, we can get traction and we can start making a difference.